It's a daily race in Gaza to save those who can be saved, with some 6,000 Palestinians killed since the last ceasefire in March. This was Al-Shifa Hospital this afternoon, where another ceasefire cannot come soon enough. One question is whether Hamas militants are now as exhausted by this war as the terrain in which they're fighting, a land in which a passing ambulance barely attracts a single glance. This afternoon's destination is a water distribution centre where an injured man is lying on the ground. The sound you can hear is an Israeli drone flying overhead. Add to that the trauma of this little girl who's just seen her father taken away to hospital. People were filling up with drinking water, this man says, when it was hit by 2 missiles. You might think that Gaza's devastation had reached saturation point, that a reported 57,000 dead in all would be enough to stop the bloodshed. But support for this war comes from Israel's far right, who keep Benjamin Netanyahu in power, while Hamas have so far refused to lay down their weapons or to go into exile. This former school, now used as a shelter, was hit by an airstrike yesterday. 5 Palestinians were reported killed. They know that Mr. Netanyahu is about to head to Washington to meet America's president, that whatever gets decided there will be felt most of all here.
We hope to God that in the coming days, or on Monday as promised, President Trump will announce a truce and our wounds will heal and the river of blood will stop.
But the ceasefire on offer sounds very similar to what broke down before. So these mourners can only pray for a better outcome this time, entirely voiceless as they are in this conflict, apart from the tears that they shed.
Jonathan Rugman reporting there. Well, last night, Donald Trump told reporters he hoped a new ceasefire agreement could take effect soon.
There could be a Gaza deal next week. How optimistic are you? I'm very optimistic, but, you know, look, it changes from day to day. It's been changing for years.
Joining me now here in the studio is Nomi Bar-Yaacov, peace negotiator, fellow at the Geneva Centre for Security Policy, and she was previously director of the Middle East programme at the International Institute for Strategic Studies. Nomi, thank you for coming in to join us. There was a ceasefire. It collapsed in March. Are you hopeful that anything has changed, that this proposal will stick?
Oh, I think this proposal is also very precarious and volatile, but I think it will happen. And it will stick if US President Donald Trump decides to exercise the leverage that he has over Israel, which he didn't on the 18th of March when the Israeli army went pounding into Gaza. He did exercise the leverage over Israel after 12 days of the war in Iran. That was very clear. Israel wanted to continue the war in Iran, and he set a red line there, and there was absolutely, the Israeli government had no choice whatsoever. So he could do the same, and he may very well do the same, because I think and I often think the Americans want a ceasefire more than the Israelis. The other thing that has changed is that the Israeli public has really grown tired of the war and all the false promises, the lies that military action is going to bring the hostages back. I think that has become very, very clear that that is not the way to get the hostages back, and the Israelis would like to see their people back. So the pressure is mounting, and the situation, of course, in Gaza is beyond catastrophic.
It is.
With people between 50,000 and 100,000 dead. No one knows how many are buried under the rubble. So there's so much that needs sorting. And I think we are in a far worse place. We're already in a catastrophic place, but we're beyond catastrophe.
So let's just pull those apart if we can. Jonathan mentioned Netanyahu relying on far-right support. But has enough changed domestically inside Israel for Netanyahu to risk agreeing to something that his coalition partners will be very, very nervous about?
Well, there is talk of giving him some plea bargain. I mean, there has been, even President Trump suggested, that his trial should come to an end for whatever reason. But the former Justice of the Supreme Court, Nomi Bar-Yaacov, has said they can only be a plea bargain if he steps out of power for good. It's not clear what will happen. Israeli politics are also sort of very volatile. But I think, again, it really boils down to what US President Donald Trump will do, because Israel depends existentially on the US, and they cannot continue the war without US support.
And Trump presumably wants payback after supporting Netanyahu over Iran and the bunker busters.
Yes, it's not just Iran, it's, I think, everything. He supported Israel also in Gaza for 21 months, and he's also losing a lot of credit internally in the US because the situation, the people are starving and they have nowhere to live, and the bombs, American bombs, are continuing to rain on them. So I think there's also there's internal US pressure, there's internal Israeli pressure, there is Arab pressure, and I think everyone, the whole world, is fed up with this, and it's time to conclude this. But the big problem is whether it'll be sustainable.
Right. So the other part of this, of course, is Hamas. They have said that they're approaching this with positivity.
Correct.
But ultimately, they are going to need to agree to something that effectively forces them into exile. They are, for a permanent peace to be agreed by the Israelis, they need to write themselves out of existence, surely.
Oh, I don't think they're going to write themselves out of existence, and I don't think anyone thinks they're going to write themselves out of existence. And I don't think it's possible to write a movement out of existence. They're not just present in Gaza, they're present in the West Bank, they're present in Israeli prisons, they're present in many countries in the Gulf. So I think it's a question of, how do you transfer power? They are very happy to transfer power to a Palestinian technocratic government. The question is, how do you get there? And that's the discussion that's missing, and that's why the ceasefire will not hold unless the day after is agreed upon. And at the moment, it is not agreed upon. And the gaps between Hamas and Israel and the US are vast. And that has to be sorted now in order for the ceasefire not to be a temporary one. Because the 60 days is the 60 days another temporary one. Only half of the living hostages are supposed to be released.
And on that, thank you very much indeed. Our time is up, sadly. Thank you for joining us, Nomi Bar-Yaacov.
Thank you very much.